Hey there, y'all. This is Jack. Today we're going to discuss if Hajun could actually defeat the Lord of the Flies Beelzebub. Now, this is a very interesting question because, as we know, Beelzebub had a hand in resurrecting Hajun through Zero to be able to create this creature that would be able to kill him. Now, could Hajun get the job done? Well, we'll get into it, but first, I just want to say we're going to discuss the Beelzebub that witnessed Hades' death, so that way we get more of a fight between these two. Because if this is Beelzebub before Hades' death, I believe Hajun would be able to kill Beelzebub. My evidence for this is, well, Beelzebub wants to die, and he would not be using as much techniques as he would against an opponent that he's actually trying to fight and defeat. So, and then we also saw the part where Lilith's love curse was preventing him from trying to do, even more dangerous attacks that does self damage to him. But of course, he not overcame that. I would say that's a bad term for it, but more of, you know, e- embrace the curse, the love curse, and just telling the Lilith curse, that I gotta do this. I'm not trying to throw my life away. I gotta avenge Hades. I gotta win this fight for him, and just defeat the humans. And then we see the curse just start retracting from Beelzebub. So again, we're going to the fight with him after Hades' death. Because if this is pre Hades' death, I think Hanjun does win, but it's still a tough fight. But let's get into it, right? The real fight. Beelzebub versus Hajun. What if Beelzebub was actually trying to slay Hajun, and what if Hajun is trying to slay Beelzebub? All right, let's let's get into a bit of Hajun's backstory, as he did make an appearance first before Beelzebub in the story, where Hajun was just this giant beast that was explained by Hades in the netherworld Helheim. At white light and black shadows beginning, the horns of the netherworld shall awaken, and eternal darkness shall be born, otherwise called Demon Lord of the Sixth Heaven, Hajun. And that's all we really get of his origins. We don't really get anything else, as even Buddha asks him, what are you? And Hajun even says, I don't even know myself. And the only thing we get from his flashback is just when he was back in his previous form, when he was massive, this giant building, just building being, excuse me, destroying half of Helheim, which is actually a pretty dang incredible feat when you think about it. As he just continues to go on, but he just realizing his power is just too great. His body just starts melting, destroying itself till he essentially just combusts into pieces. So yeah, and Hajun in this form, in the body of Zero that he took over, consumed, and made his own, is far more powerful in this current form that we see. The body able to withstand his almighty power. Now, let's get to his weapons. The first weapon we see him use is a giant blade that extends out of his arm, which is very interesting, as when he challenges the Buddha, he's easily able to keep up with Buddha's attacks and just almost start overpowering Buddha. And again, this is Hajun very, barely reawakening his new stronger power. As this again stronger because this body's able to contain his power, not just completely melt and be destroyed. And as he's fighting the Buddha, that same blade turns into a curved blade that almost strikes the Buddha. But Buddha obviously manages to get away from it. But that's not all that blade could do, because we see that blade start turning into similar to like a drill, which is named Heaven Piercing Demon Drill. And this drill is so powerful it destroys Buddha's fourth realm, Ashura realm, 11 face Conan, Ashim, shield of destroyer of the seventh misfortune. So yeah, and this drill absolutely just drills a hole right through Buddha's shield and nicking, and essentially not nicking, but destroying Buddha's left eye. So yeah, this drill again, I just want to emphasize this is a massive feat for Hajun in just destructive capability here. And Hajun moved so fast that Buddha barely had time to even activate his shield. And even when he activated it, it still took out, made a hole in Buddha's shield and took out an eye. And even Hajun said, I even aimed to hit your head, but you managed to dodge just in time. So again, Hajun, he's a big muscle head, but he's still pretty intelligent. He actually is pretty flexible when it comes to fighting, especially when Buddha tries to counterattack and Hajun's able to dodge and just do splits and stab Buddha's foot with the next weapon we see here, this giant axe that he makes out of his arm, and a giant a spear point at the tip, and yeah, Hajun again, insanely and crazy strength and power. But when Buddha uses the scythe of the weapon that he used when he taps into his anger, Salakasu, scythe of the wind god, Karma, destructing Sarum cycle, and Hajun. Of course, he is arrogant. It is in his character. He is pretty arrogant. As Buddha strikes at Hajun, Hajun thinking, yeah, this weapon's too slow. It's not going to really do anything. Hajun blocks, but has massive power behind it. But of course, Hajun's easily able to dodge it. But then Buddha goes in for another strike, and this time the scythe starts ejecting flames out of the behind it, and it's hurtling right towards Hajun. Hajun is essentially caught off guard by the speed and destructive power of this. But then Hajun pulls another great feat in Record of Ragnarok of just durability as he holds his left arm up and blocks the attack, and he makes his arm like kind of overlap with like these scales. So very very interesting here that Hajun is able to block this attack that would seemingly probably cut any other god in half, but Hajun just picks up his arm and blocks it. And yes, he's pretty like shooken by this because this attack nearly almost sliced him in half, but for this his arm, yeah, he was able to block it. And of course, later on in the fight, we see Hajun rip off that same arm, the left arm, to create a sword and essentially just go up towards Buddha. When Buddha uses his scythe again, his karma destroying Sashala's scythe, Hajun uses Blaze of Glory and completely annihilates the scythe's blade. And then soon after, destroys Buddha's weapon entirely. And again, incredible feat from Hajun. Very, very destructive power and pretty flexible and not as dumb as we think until Buddha eventually gets to him and starts mocking him, saying, "Yeah, you're afraid. I can finally, see your soul." And Hajun just not having none of that. But again, does Beelzebub really trash talk? Not that much. Beelzebub is more of a character that kind of just gets in there and gets down to business. But all right, now let's talk about the Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies, as we get a backstory of this of Beelzebub, a name that has always been uttered alongside two other reviled names. The first, the Lord of the Flies, and the second, Satan, which is what caused Beelzebub to become somewhat of an outcast. That he never really had any friends because people were too afraid of him because of the Satan that comes along with them. But then, of course, Lucifer and two of his friends come to befriend Beelzebub, and of course, they just want to be friends with them because, again, they were loners, but they got together, became friends. Lucifer doesn't like seeing people alone. He wants people to be friends, and he eventually befriends Buddha, going to the Garden of Eden, stealing some apples. We get some pretty good stuff here with Beelzebub, with including his backstory. And when Beelzebub finally opens up, starts, embracing these people as his friends, well, that's when Satan takes over and completely slaughters his friends. But of course, at this point, Beelzebub is under the impression that Satan and him are two separate beings, that he believes that Satan is somewhat tormenting him. So he goes on a quest to figure out where Satan is. And that's when Lilith comes into his life, a woman that he finds, well, at first, he doesn't really pay her much attention, but eventually, she wears down on him. She gets onto him, where he's like, all right, I like you. You're beautiful and I'll always protect you. But as that continues to go on, he grows, to essentially love her. Like, I would go that far as to he essentially loves her, but that's when Satan kicks in and completely destroys Lilith. And right before she essentially dies, Lilith tells Beelzebub, you gotta keep going, you gotta continue to live for our sake, and she bestows him her love curse, where Beelzebub sees it as a curse, but it's not really a curse. It's more of a essentially a love spell that will prevent Beelzebub from killing himself, because that's the least Lilith would want him to do, is to kill himself. He should just continue to live on, and have them, Beelzebub continue to live on with them as in his memories. But no, Beelzebub doesn't want that. He wants to die. He wants to find someone that'd be able to kill him, get the job done, so that way his existence is erased and he doesn't have to remember the pain. But eventually he goes to fight Hades, the ruler of Helheim, and Hades actually manages to back Beelzebub to the corner to where even Beelzebub's like, "Yeah, you're gonna be able to kill me," but Hades kind of is confused by this until Beelzebub shows him the curse Lilith gave him. But Hades like, "Dude, that's not a curse. Don't you don't understand, do you? It's not a curse." As Beelzebub was like, "What are you talking about?" And Hades continues, "She wanted you to continue on living. No, then rather than wishing for death, shouldn't you be asking yourself, how should I live instead?" And of course, not Beelzebub understanding, but not completely taking in his words, because as Beelzebub next time meets Hades, Beelzebub's like, "I'm going to continue doing my work, and I want to die the most horrendous way possible to atone for my sins." And even at that point, Beelzebub receives a gift from Hades, as Hades gives him the staff Ophrimius, as which is very interesting why he would give him that. But as Hades does state that, well, it suits you pretty well, and it'll essentially make you like make your it goes well with your powers. And next time if you do want to challenge me, yeah, it'll be more of a fight essentially, which is pretty interesting, and I like that. But again, them two are kind of are what somewhat friends as Hades grew on to Beelzebub, but not in a way to where Satan would come out. Because Beelzebub more likely just kept his distance from Hades, but still having reverence for Hades, just like, seeing as Hades as I won't say friend, but just a step before friend, where he does admire Hades. Now, let's jump right into Beelzebub's skills and his insane um, weaponry here. Where Beelzebub, the first time we see Beelzebub do anything is when Tesla approaches him. Again, Beelzebub is not the one to charge to be the aggressor. He just wants to. He does want to end it, but he wants to end it as sufficiently as possible. And as he does, essentially does, where he just stands there and has the staff transmit a vibration through the ground to try to hit Tesla. Tesla dodges, and it destroys a pillar right behind him. And then after that, we see Beelzebub going in for an attack with a vibration blade out of his right hand, known as the Devil's Wings Flapping. And also, he has a shield where he could create with the staff on his left hand called Saruf Makr, Gates of Hell. And then we have another insane attack where Tesla tries to go on the far more offensive, but Beelzebub uses the staff on his right hand, uses Sartuvar, Fallen Angel's Gluttony, where he just makes a massive wave through the staff of Arphemius to just come down and smash Tesla, which again, very, very intense. But Tesla manages to survive. But again, very devastating ability. Even Brunhilde speaks out and says that this god has the both strongest spear and strongest shield. When it comes to his right hand, the spear, and left hand, the shield. And then we have another attack that Beelzebub does do, which is a note, which he doesn't ever use again, which is surprising. Where he does a slash with his right hand and shoots like an air vibration blade out, which is interesting. But we don't ever really see that much again. But it's good to see that he does have a long distance attack like that. And then plus his main attack that we all know, original sin of the underworld #1, Chaos, where he combines both of his hands on top of the skull and uses his vibration spear and vibration shield and just uses them both at the same time and creates a massive explosion. But there's a downside to this where it actually damages his own body as well, and he is unable to spam this because again, his love curse will prevent him from continuing to spam this ability, and also it damages him pretty bad too. And also, it does leave him wide open as he's first using this attack. Tesla goes in for a wild hook. He lands on Beelzebub, sends Beelzebub flying, but Beelzebub is unshooken as he continues to use this attack to essentially try to destroy Tesla, as even he thought that it would kill Tesla, but Tesla managed to survive the attack using one of the Tesla coils. And then the last attack we see Beelzebub using that's of note is Sohrum Taru, Prayers of Darkness, where he starts jabbing the staff continuously at incredible speeds, where it makes an image of a bunch of flies coming right at you to essentially just demolish you and just evaporate you essentially. Now, all these weaponry Beelzebub has is great, but what goes very well with it is his intelligence and his quick thinking. As in when we saw him in the last chapter of his fight with Tesla, to where he almost got killed, but at the end he figured out what was going on. He knew what Tesla's plan was, and he barely managed to get the victory while landing the Sainted Horns within Tesla's chest. So again, very, very interesting for the Beelzebub that he's able to completely, think very, very quickly on his feet. Now, let's get into the main thing. Can the Hajun defeat the Beelzebub, the Lord of the Flies? And I think it's very possible. I don't think it's going to be as one-sided as most people think. I think Hajun does have the means of just completely penetrating through Beelzebub's defenses with the heaven piercing drill, and also not to mention the blaze of glory. I think if it lands a direct hit on Beelzebub's staff, I do believe it'll destroy the staff like it did with Buddha's divine weapons. So yeah, Hajun, Beelzebub, the way he's gonna be able to defeat Hajun is he's gonna have to somewhat keep his distance, but close in at certain points to where Hajun leaves himself wide open. Because Hajun, when he does the blades of glory, when he turns his arm into a sword, he leaves himself wide open to where the Buddha took advantage of that and slashed right at him and cut him down. And also, I was thinking that can Hajun's, when he lifts his arm up and creates that scaly armor that prevented him from the Buddha's attack with the scythe, could that more than likely block or defend against any of Beelzebub's attacks? And I believe it could to most of them. In fact, I would believe that it would be able to defend against the devil's wings flapping, where he turns his right hand into like a vibration blade, the fallen angel's gluttony, and not to mention the. I would believe honestly that Hajun would be able to tank the chaos attack. But the question is, I do believe Hajun would also be severely wounded by that attack. Hajun, again, not to underestimate him, but he is actually incredibly powerful and he does know how to fight. This guy does know how to fight. But Beelzebub, I do believe as long as he keeps his head and he's not suicidal and he is trying to win this, Beelzebub should win this fight. And if I had a rate out of a 1 through 10, how often I think Beelzebub would win, I would say probably 7 to 8. More than likely 7 times out of 10, because Hajun again is just this massive brute that actually, as I said before, knows how to fight pretty well, especially with able to just manipulate his blade that comes out of his right arm into a curved blade to a straight blade to to maneuver around and to instantly turn into a heaven piercing demon drill and just drill through. And then not to mention the axe, where he shows incredible flexibility to where he's able to do it to duck under a Buddha's swing and stab at Buddha's feet. So again, Buddha Beelzebub might have the ultimate spear and shield, but Hajun has proven to be able to pierce through the Buddha's weaponry and shield like relatively pretty dang. Not, I won't say okay, the shield easily and the weapon mostly easy until he goes Blaze of Glory and destroys it. So Beelzebub, when it comes to Hajun, he shouldn't be relying on the vibration shield, the gates of hell, to essentially just start protecting him, because Hajun is probably going to more than likely be able to just break through it eventually. And as we state before that, when Beelzebub uses the vibration weapons after he's hurt, it starts to hurt his body and starts to damage him as well. And it seems to me that Hajun would be more than likely be able to keep the fight on going longer and longer and longer over Beelzebub. As when Beelzebub was fighting Tesla, after using Chaos, after getting damaged by Tesla, again, yeah, Beelzebub, he has to finish the fight quickly. And I don't want to shortcut Beelzebub in any way. I want to say Beelzebub's reflexes is pretty dang excellent, as we saw him react to Tesla, absolute, like not just blitzing but teleporting behind Beelzebub and just landing a massive hit on Beelzebub, and Beelzebub actually managing to survive that hit. So Beelzebub does have some pretty good endurance, but again, it comes down to, can he outwit Hajun? And I believe most of the time he's actually going to be able to defeat Hajun. He just should not take him. Um, unlike like he shouldn't go easy on him, because Hajun is definitely not going to go easy on him. So as I stated before, if this is suicidal Beelzebub, Hajun would win. I would say probably 8 times out of 10. But if this is Beelzebub trying to defeat Hajun, Beelzebub wins 7 out of 10 times. And that's just me. Let me know what you guys think. You guys think I'm way off? You think I'm giving Hajun too much credit, or do you think Hajun does have more of a chance than I'm giving him credit for? Let me know what you guys think, and Yeah, if you want more videos like this of other fights between two characters, let me know what you guys would like to see in the comment section. I'd be very interested on who you guys think, and if it's interesting, I'll definitely cover it. Because again, this is a fight that could have happened in alt Record of Ragnarok, where Zero just eventually gets infected by Hajun and Beelzebub goes confronts him and is like, all right, let's see if you could kill me. Very likely, but again, let me know if there's any fights you'd like me to go over, and I'll be happy to see if it's a good one to go through, and I would get all right on it. If you listened this far, I greatly appreciate it. This was a fun video to make, and yeah, very fun to talk about. I love Record of Ragnarok. You guys have a good one. Take care. Later, guys.